Hey everyone, Horst here again. I posted a replay on YouTube a little while ago. It was me going 2-gate robotics against a fast roach build. I've been recently informed though that there's a 7 roach rush out there, which is much faster. We tried it against my 2-gate robotics build. The 2-gate robotics build failed miserably because the immortal was not out in time. So we have a new counter to develop against this. I spent some time with Incinerate today, who is the author of the 7 Roach Rush post on the Blizzard forums. So we sat down and figured out what we could do to stop it. To start off with a 9 pylon. Let's just switch this over to my perspective only. You start off with a very normal Protoss wall, 9 pylon, do a 12 gateway right here, and you put a cyber core here. You get your 14 assimilator, 15 pylon. This is pretty normal looking for all Protoss at this point, though. This is just standard. You just want to keep your scout back here to check it out. Make sure he's not doing anything too crazy. And there you can see the Roach Warren go down. So now that you know the Roach Warren is going down and he's on one base, you know it's probably going to be a Roach Rush. You want to get your forge started by around 3:30, 3:40. Timing is actually very important on that. You need your cannons to start going down by 4:35, 4:40. So as long as your forge is started by 3:40, you should be fine. And like normal, you just put a zealot right there to hold the line. It'll work against any fast roach kind of shenanigans. After you have your zealot, you want a sentry pretty quick. So you have a zealot and a sentry guarding. Then after your forge goes down, you can get another Vespene gas. Although apparently I opt in this replay to get 2 cannons first. The timing is actually very important on these cannons. You want to wait until around 4:40. You don't want to do it any earlier than that, because that's about the time his roaches actually start to hatch, so he can't cancel them. Yeah, it's a little too early here. He's actually able to cancel a couple of the roaches, he says. But oh well. Now you're defended against the roach rush, so you can throw up an assimilator. Now from this point, you have 1 gateway right now, so you can't really produce too much offensive units, but you want to throw down a Stargate. The point of the Stargate is to get some fast Phoenix out. You can put some pressure on him, force him to go Hydralisks. If you don't go fast Phoenix, he can just expand and go Muta. And that's just going to destroy you, because you're on 1 base and he's on 2 at this point. He will be expanding very shortly. So, you get your fast Phoenix. When that finishes, and you want to throw down a 2nd gateway when you can. I mean, this build is gas intensive. You're going to have a lot of extra minerals. You can build zealots while you're doing this. Zealots are always a great unit to have whenever you have extra minerals lying around. You want to chrono boost out your Phoenix. Now this is something I started doing since the last game. This is the latest game in a series me and Incinerate played. He tried Nidus worming into my base while I was doing this. It was pretty effective, so you want to have vision to all corners of your base. I probably should have a pylon down here as well. But once your first Phoenix comes out, you start making your 2nd Phoenix. You want to start getting a robotics facility. You're going to force them to make Hydralisks, and then you're going to destroy them with Colossus. This Phoenix is looking for an Overlord. There was one scouting here. There it is. Just pop any Overlords you happen to see. It does hurt the Zerg when you do that. Now the Zerg player knows you have Phoenix, and he's going to be trying to counter that by going Hydralisks, and he's probably going to get some Spore Crawlers in his base. So to stop the Spore Crawlers, well, to stop the Hydralisks, you get Robotics Facility and Colossus as soon as possible. If we look over here at the Phoenix, we can see he has his expansion up. Doesn't have any Spore Crawlers though. You can take advantage of that, kill any stray Overlords you find. You don't want to get caught by the queens, they'll just poke in here, kill what you can, but don't die, don't lose any Phoenix. It's very important you don't lose these Phoenix, you need them for a later game. If he actually switches to mutas after your Phoenix die, you can be caught off guard and just lose. And once you get that 200 gas, right around 8:30 or so, you want to throw down your robotics bay, and you can expand at the same time. You saw him going Hydralisks, which means he won't have that many units, so he probably can't launch that effective of an attack against you. But just to be on the safe side, you keep scouting around with your Phoenix. Just keep a good knowledge of what he's doing in his base. You don't want to be caught off position. So now he has Spore Crawlers, which also cost money, so you know he's not going to be too aggressive early in the game. You can just fly around with your Phoenix, just double check what he's doing. He has Roach Hydra, very normal. So you can throw down a cannon or two at the front here. And again, this build is gas intensive, not really mineral intensive, so you have extra minerals for cannons, and keep making those zealots. Now, it's important that you get range for your Colossus, like immediately, before you even get your first Colossus. You want range out really fast. So if you can get those Colossus out with range, you can just boil through anything on the ground. So you really can't go mutas because you have Phoenix in the air, and Hydras are just going to get melted by this, so he really doesn't have very many viable options other than Corruptor. But Corruptors are expensive, and they're not really useful against ground units. They're very situational. If he doesn't know you're going Colossus, he probably won't have any. And again, just keep poking around with your Phoenix, make sure he's not moving out for an attack. Just check to see what his army looks like. Hydralisks, a queen, nothing too fancy. But again, don't lose those Phoenix. You need those all game. You can't lose them carelessly. And you keep warping in units. Get a little supply blocked here. You actually want 2 Colossus before you push out for the first time. Fast forward a little bit. Want to get unsupply blocked. In about 12 minutes your range finishes. If I wasn't supply blocked there, the Colossus would finish at around 12:30, and you'd push out at around 12:30. And the Phoenix still poking in. He has an Overlord fairly vulnerable there, so you just pick one off when you can. It puts the Zerg on the back foot, makes him doubt moving out, makes him think that he has to stay in his base. You want to keep him bottled up in here. You also want to scout these expansions around the map, just to make sure he's not taking anything hidden that you don't know about. And you can see the Colossus is about to pop. Once you're on 2 bases, you can throw down a 3rd, 4th gateway. You can even throw down often a 2nd robotics facility, although at this point in the game it might not be worth it to throw down a 2nd robotics, because you're going to need Stargate units depending on what he has when you go attack him. So now that we have both Colossus out and decent army, and we have range, you can start getting forge weapons, which really help out your Zealots and Colossus, and you want to push out. Usually this pushes about 30-40 seconds earlier than this. Mine pushes slightly later, but it still should have a pretty decent effect on him. So we move in. Spine Crawler, easy to kill. And he has Corruptors. Corruptors are a very hard counter to Colossi. They just melt them. Fortunately, he has a lot of Hydras, so we'll just boil those with the Colossus. And it looks like I'm starting to be overrun here, so you want to try to pull back, save what you can. But this attack is not going that smoothly for me. Now these Corruptors are very fast. The Colossus can't really run away from them, so your Stalkers are going to have to guard it. But he's going to grab this Colossus too. And if you look at units lost, it's actually almost fairly equal, because the Colossus did kill a lot of Hydralisks before they went down. But now that you know he has Corruptors, you actually want to produce Void Rays. Get like 2 or 3 Void Rays out to escort your Colossus. So for my next push, I'll have Colossus and Void Rays. But he's trying to counterattack here. It's not going to work because I have a decent defense set up with photon cannons. I have another Colossus just came out. And the game feels pretty even at this point because I just saw his counterattack was rather small. So I know he doesn't have a very large standing army. So we're in a fairly even state. But you want to keep up Colossus production, keep up Void Ray production. That's why you can really only support like 3 or 4 gateways at most with this build. Just pick off any stray overlords you can. Again, you want to keep them bottled up in this area. You don't want them to get out. You don't want them to expand. Now, around this point is a great time to actually expand yourself. Your second push can come around 1730, 1740 when you attack him again. By then, you want to have an expansion yourself. It's always a great idea to take an expansion right before you attack, because the odds are good he's going to be too busy dealing with your attack to even attack your expansion. So we have 1 Void up, 2 Colossus. We're going to wait until we have 3 Colossus and 2 Void Rays. Then we can push in and attack them again. Again, it's real important to keep your money low. You always want to keep making probes out of your nexus. This nexus is a little saturated, so you really don't need to keep making probes out of here. But this one could definitely use more probes on it. Now, it's probably a decent idea to keep using these Phoenix to keep scouting these bases over here, these bases down here. It's late though. This was a game that was done in the early morning, so my APM is kind of low. But it's not really essential. You have to do it. When you're expanding, you want to throw down pylons at the front, get a couple of cannons here. Cannons really are never a wasted resource. I mean, they may seem like a noob thing to do, but as long as you don't spam them, they're great. But now that we have 3 Colossus on the field and 2 Void Rays, we can push out again. You can see he has that Hydra Corruptor army. Colossus will boil the Hydralisks away. Brought in the Phoenix this time to help counter the Corruptors. The Phoenix and the Void Rays will just melt through these Corruptors like they aren't even there. And you have the Colossi to deal with the ground Hydralisk army. Just focus fire with your Void Rays on the Corruptors, make sure they die first so your Colossus are safe. The entire key is keeping these Colossus safe, because these things do the vast majority of your damage. You just want to keep them safe, keep everything away from them. But that is how you hard counter a 7 Roach Rush. Me and Incinerate tried this like every variation you could think of with the 7 Roach Rush, and every time this build countered it decently. Now if he's not 7 Roach Rushing, the variation you'd want to do to this build for normal PvZ is you wouldn't build the Forge. You would build instead a second gateway, get a couple more Zealots out earlier, and probably expand slightly earlier, but you can still use Phoenix into Colossus in every version of your PvZ. It's not a bad strategy to use ever, because Phoenix hard counter Mutalisks, and Colossus hard counter Hydralisks. And if he goes Corruptor, Void Rays hard counter Corruptors. So the only way you can really lose if he takes a 3rd or a 4th base and he just completely outnumbers you, you can lose then. But this is a pretty strong build, and you guys should try it out. Thanks for watching.